This podcast was prepared by the Digression Method. The opinions expressed in this show are those of the hosts and do not reflect the view of the scientists, the Department of Education, or the United States Science Board.
Whenever life gets you down, Mrs. Brown, and things seem hard or tough, and people are stupid, obnoxious, or daft, and you feel that you've had quite enough. Just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving and revolving at 900 miles an hour. That's orbiting at 19 miles a second, so it's reckoned. The sun that is the source of all our power. The sun and you and me and all the stars that we can see are moving at 1,000,000 miles a day.
Welcome back after a holiday hiatus. Took a little break.
It was a long holiday.
From Thanksgiving to right around New Year's.
It's time for the family. In addition to that, it got pretty cold around here. You know, a lot of changes happening.
We got our blast of cold weather. Last year was lots of snow. This year we had a white Christmas. I mean, I can't complain about that. That's always nice. But I don't know. Thankfully, it kind of melted away. We're just kind of dealing with the residual snow.
I
think it'll snow again by the end of the month.
I read
Don't say that.
Yesterday it was colder in Tampa Bay, Florida than it was in Anchorage, Alaska. It was 34 in Tampa and it was 42 in Anchorage.
Oh, when the ball was dropping, it was the coldest it's been in New York on New Year's.
What was it, like minus 16 or what was it?
It was like, I don't know, 10.
It was really that
cold? It was so cold at the ball drop that people were like giving away tickets to go to it. They're like, yeah, you can go and you can watch it since you'll be one of like 18 people there.
I feel like such a chump. It was 11:30 and I was laying in bed. And then I'm like messing with my phone and I look and I'm like, hey, it's getting close to 12. I'd be like, the New Year countdown or whatever. And then started messing with my phone again. Then I looked again, it was like 12:10. I was like, I missed it. Okay, who cares? It wasn't very exciting. No.
Yeah, the party I went to, half the people were asleep by the ball drop, but they were woken up like 2 minutes before. Like, it's gonna happen. Maintain consciousness.
Wake up for this, and then go back to sleep. Yeah. Well, we hope everybody else had a good New Year's and Christmas and Thanksgiving.
And Kwanzaa and
every other
and
Yule
practice. And what a Festivus, Hopefully you had a happy Festivus.
I forget what Festivus is. I know it's Seinfeld. I know it's like a made-up like holiday made up by George Costanza's dad in Seinfeld, but I don't remember like.
I thought Festivus was like the idea, like you're non-denominational, but you still want to celebrate the holidays, so you have Festivus, and it's for the rest of us.
Okay, it's like, hey, I'm just festive. I just like the color.
Yeah, like I don't believe Christ was born this day, but I do like the lights.
Exactly, yeah.
So, Festivus is defined as a secular holiday celebrated on December 23rd that is essentially anti-Christmas, a backlash to commercialization of Christmas, and involves the airing of grievances. The term was first used by Frank Costanza's father of principal character George Costanza on the American comedy Seinfeld.
It's like a
I hate the Christmas. It sounds bad.
It's like a communist Christmas.
It's anti-commercialism.
Yeah, no, we don't buy presents. Okay. We don't buy presents. Instead, I'm gonna give you the gift of resolving some issue I have with you. So I'm gonna start some shit.
Or here's some pot holders I bought at a flea market like 5 weeks ago that
I don't
want anymore. They were for me, but now they're for you.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, yeah.
So maybe I don't promote Festivus.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, I don't know if Festivus is actually
I'm actually alright with that. Anti-commercialism, like, I'm okay with that.
I mean, in America, people are always like,
commercials have ruined TV.
And it's just like, man, capitalism's pretty crazy. not going to get into a whole communism, capitalism thing. I'm not a communist. I don't agree with communism, but there are things that Karl Marx said when talking about what capitalism produces, like the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. You create nations of bourgeoisie and proletariats, and it's like, it's kind of true because you got America that just outsources everything to all the yeah. I just said I'm not going to get into it, then I started talking about it. So yeah,
tangent over.
Yeah,
there's no good system, just different, and that's all you need to know.
I agree with that.
None are worse or better than the other. They all suck equally.
Yeah.
Ideally, in a utopian society, everybody would share and share alike.
Yeah. I think this week we're not going to do a current event because we've been doing those a lot, and I think the last thing we did was the sci-fi to fact. So we're just going to slip into a weigh-in and kind of do a little different. Not going to pick a particular like Black Knight satellite weigh-in conspiracy or something like that. We're gonna go a little different. I think AJ's got the reins for this one. What are we going to talk about for this one, Broseph?
Yeah, so I wanted to take a step away from conspiracies because the tough thing about those weigh-ins is that we all seem to usually unify on a decision. Like, we all are like, okay, this is the right thing to do.
I can't think, is there a single weigh-in that we actually were like, we actually agree that the conspiracy might be true. I think we've always, like you say, we've always been like, bullshit.
It's pretty unified.
Well,
Bullshit.
it's either bullshit or there's been probable. Yeah, probable is the most that we've invested into.
Oh, okay, we're not going to say yes. We'll just say
like the time
most
travel
likely
one.
Yes.
It's probable. Well,
that was a good episode.
and I think also the problem when we do something like that is that like you can have an opinion, but you can't like really gather information to like form an actual like this is what happened in my mind.
Because you have to forming a theory, you need a hypothesis and experiments to test, and if you can't gather that stuff, then you're like, well, this is just not a thought experiment, because that's a little different, but it's just, I guess, a pondering of what could be.
But this is like a scientific debate. This is something that people have been talking about. They've been thinking about it, and I just want to bring it here. So the topic of today's weigh-in or today's debate is: should we, as people, create living organisms or alternative life whose sole purpose is only for us to experiment on in the hopes of like better understanding either ourselves or a disease or evolution as a whole? Should we play God and create life that we can then experiment on? That's the question.
Human pig hybrids?
You see, I'm like, that could pop. My first thought was like, creating a clone in a test tube of me that I could use to either just give away to research, or I could be like, well, I want the kidney and I want the heart and I want things that
replacement organs.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think, like, I've heard that they like have been like basically growing lungs and organs in like test tubes. Like, you could just kind of set up the cells, the programming to make sure it's in the right conditions, and then you're creating a lung. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just grow the organ instead of the whole body? It takes years for the whole body to get to a point where you could replace it into you. So it's like, grow the organ, because then you don't have to go through the puberty and the growing up and all that stuff.
And mentioning that human-pig hybrid thing, there's come to find out a little bit of truth in that, and a little bit of that was false. So apparently the National Institute of Health proposed a new policy which would allow researchers to receive federal funds to make part human, part animal embryos. What's false about the whole thing is the United States has not approved crossbreeding humans and animals. So no chimeras between humans and animals. There have been a couple different chimeras between animals and animals.
I'm trying to remember. I swear earlier this year we talked about researchers like messing with a genome and like mixing like pig and people or something. I'm very vague. I can't comment on it because I don't remember.
I mean, ultimately it makes sense because a lot of like heart transplants and things like that, you can use pig organs.
Yeah, that's true.
So the argument that that I think about for that though is that when you hybrid an animal, when you combine it with a human, it's not a human. It's a human whatever hybrid. So you're
are you creating a new species?
You
when
allow
you do that? Just immediately you just created a new species.
Well, and you allow a level of gray in there where it's like, well, is a human pig hybrid as sentient as I am? Is killing it like killing a human, or is killing it like killing a pig?
It's like this gets into the real big ethical dilemma. Like, well, is it okay to do this? Because you're creating life, and depending on how you view life in the universe and on Earth and whatever, it's like life is very precious. So it's like you're just going to create it just to test on it.
Well, and if you look back to like 1940s, 1942 at the end of it, World War II, there was the atrocities that were committed by the Germans. And while those are atrocities, and while those are like things that they helped us rewrite the Geneva Code on like what is morally and ethically okay to do to test subjects, while all of those things sucked, we did learn a lot about what humans can and cannot do from those experiments.
Yeah.
And now, granted, it wasn't because
the way you obtained the information is very you just kind of
exactly.
But...
So is creating a life in a tube and then testing on it any different than saying that like this entire race of people, the Jewish race, are inferior and thus we get a test on them? Is there any difference in that?
No. This just makes me think if you're talking about ethics and you're talking about is it okay to create something to test on or to use as for resources for people, like their organs. It's like, well, is it okay to test on monkeys and test on animals?
Not even
it's
resources per se for better understanding. Like, imagine you create a miniature human in a tube, and then you give it HIV, and then now you start trying to figure out how to cure HIV. They do that to mice and monkeys. They're doing it right now.
Exactly. So it's you get into this. Is that ethical?
Well, so the current argument I think is that it doesn't apply there because they aren't sentient. They're not to the point where they can tell me, "Ow, this hurts."
Yeah. So you have to then define it as, well, it's not ethical unless it has a similar consciousness to you. But it's like, is that just sounds morbid? Oh, it's an ant, so I can kill as many as I want. Even though they are a pest, it's like,
they don't
but then at that point,
kill things.
The ant itself is not necessarily aware of what we are aware of.
Oh no, yeah, the ant doesn't even know you exist.
Going from here to Portland for an ant is like, huh? Like,
exactly. If it was on the card, you took it to Portland, accidentally, it would just be like,
a whole new world.
Oh my god! If I could just tell I've traveled across 18 billion light years in their sense.
There was a man we knew 15 generations ago that made the trip.
The god picked me up and took me.
It was a steel horse I rode. I was wanted, dead or alive.
I found the promised land. I don't know, man. See, I would like to be able to create a clone to just use for put it in stasis if I get hurt. Cut off his finger, give me his finger.
I'd love to have scientists working on developments for cures for cancer in people, for cures for AIDS in people.
But is that ethical?
Yeah, because it's the stuff that you'll have to put them on. It's like when AIDS first came out, when they were like, okay, we're gonna try to save you. And then they gave them drugs that killed them faster.
Well, no, I get that. Cancer's like that today. Any experimental drug, you have to sign a waiver when you take it that says, hey, this, we hope will help you, but there's a better chance it'll actually make it worse.
Yeah.
So there's already programs like that. But imagine if it was just this little because I feel like everybody assumes that you're gonna grow this child, you're gonna let this child become a man, and then you're gonna be all right, now we're gonna experiment on you. No, it's just gonna be cells in a tube.
But it's just say it. You just made me go well, then now, if you can do that and grow people, then you make reproduction obsolete. Because you could just take two people's genetics and grow a child that won't
I've been of the opinion.
Eyesight, won't have.
I've been of the opinion that
disorders or anything.
There's enough sperm stored in banks on the planet that we're not needed anymore.
Just enough in one guy and to last the whole planet.
And if you're trying to say that now the tube is going to replace the egg, I think that's just balancing the playing field. we're not needed, women aren't needed, we're not needed anymore. Robots could recreate us and force us to be slaves, and we would all just be like, okay, well, this is life. I'm a slave to, like, my robot overboss.
See, that the robot overlords, it's like, they'd have to, have to create
But I
AI.
have a couple,
but
I have a couple augmentations, so I get to be a house slave. Like, I'm
Screw that.
part robot, so
I'm not being a robot.
That's why we all
Right.
need to learn how to hack.
Yeah, so we just be like, yeah, I'm your slave robot overlord, but it's like, really,
Yeah,
you're
I
my
love
fucking
that.
slave. I'm hacking
Just
you.
go through-
hacking the shit out of you.
Going through Fallout, just like hacking everything and turning it all off. There's just like a sea of like
Just
unanimated
unconscious-
robots.
Yeah, just laying around.
You start just building this
Oh man.
vehicle, because like all vehicles are obsolete at that point. So
Yeah.
like, you just take all the robot parts and like build a
Make a
vehicle.
little
just to be-
jetpack.
all the
It's
thruster
fucking-
components.
Yeah, it's like, screw it.
I'm out of here.
Genetically.
So can we create something just to experiment on it? Even if you got down to just the bare bones of that. Like, are we able
I think
to
it's an
create
ethic
just
dilemma.
to destroy?
Yeah, I'm just like, because it's, of course you want to go, yeah, because then if it's not conscious, it's not you, then it's not feeling pain, it doesn't know the life it's missing out on if it were to be conscious, so it's okay, but it's like, but you're trying to define line of defining what is okay when it comes to life.
Well, like
It has to be conscious for me to treat it with dignity and respect.
we already tread that line in mainstream culture right now with the question about
yeah.
abortion, with the question about stem cell research. It's all that question is always there. Is that when does life
you don't
become
need
life?
an embryo for stem cell research.
No, I
That's one thing. Nowadays, I just wanted to say, like, I agree with you. Those two are absolutely qualify for the ethical dilemmas. But it's like you don't even need stem cells from other people anymore. You could get stem cells from yourself and use them on yourself.
No, I agree with that, but
yeah, I
people
do
would
see what
still,
you're saying.
but people would still argue is even that ethical? So that's that kind of like range of ethics where it's like one person could say that yeah, it's totally fine, but the next person could be like, well, if you base it upon this rule and this rule here, then it's actually not okay.
And then it also comes down to a religious standpoint at a certain point where it's like, are people playing God when they are experimenting with this stuff?
Or as AJ said, creating life to experiment. So it's like you definitely are. You're playing God. It's like, well,
not
because if you're creating new life or.
But then who's playing?
Yeah, you're not playing God at that point. You are God at that point. You're literally just picking up that torch that's laying next to a corpse on the ground and saying, "I'll run with this now."
Yeah, I don't know, because when it comes to abortion, I used to be it's a woman's body, it's their choice, but it's like, now I'm like, well, I have, my views in science to where it's like, it's all an accident, and you're lucky enough to just be conscious to acknowledge it. So with that viewpoint, or my own viewpoint, it's like, it's not okay at all to abort anybody, ever. It's like, oh, it's your body, it's not your life that you created.
I don't know. What about when a woman gets raped and then gets pregnant subsequently?
See, yeah, you get. There are, like AJ was talking about earlier about the Germans and doing things against the Jews and stuff to benefit people. It's like there are like little utilitarianism things where it's like, well, it's called rule utilitarianism. Or act utilitarianism is you can do something that benefits the greater people even though it's like abhorrent or atrocious, like killing the Jews for the benefit of like the Germans, like the German people or whatever benefited, the world benefited.
Or that
But
primary
a horrible
example
thing
where
was
I
messed up.
enslaved 1% of the population to serve for the other 99%.
Yeah, that's one that I read in the
It's a
computer
classic.
physics book that it was just like, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're going utilitarianism to where you're benefiting mankind, that's the whole, then it's like, yeah, you do enslave the 1% for the 99, but it's like, no, that's when utilitarianism can be twisted to do terrible things.
That's when it fails.
So you throw in rule utilitarianism to where it's like, hey, there are exceptions to the rule. So when it comes to like if a woman gets raped, I can understand then that they don't want to be reminded of this thing, but at the same time, it's like
that's the baby that we experiment on.
Oh, see, it's just like
Ugh.
no,
Ugh.
no. It's such a hard thing to even
There's,
decide.
there's no right answer. There's no right answer.
I can't tell a woman not to abort a kid because they were raped. I mean, I've never been raped.
Any ism that exists is based upon opinion. Any ism, capitalism, racism, every ism is based upon opinion. It's not based on fact.
So orgasms are based on opinion too?
No, that's an asm, not an ism.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
If it has asm in it, it's really good.
Asm is a fact.
It's really bad.
Asm is fact. Ism is fiction.
Yeah. I mean, that's plausible to me. It's reasonable enough in my eyes.
Yeah. So we come full circle then to the question: if you had to say a yes or no, would you allow a scientist to create an artificial life to then experiment on it? It's the sole purpose. It's not like it's going to be, well, we'll do one experiment and we'll let them grow. No, it's like they're going to live
myself to actually say
however living is.
No.
What is my purpose? To pass the butter.
Exactly.
Oh. He's like, oh, no. I'd say no. I mean,
I'm going to say definitely yes. It is okay.
It's just like, it's a life form.
So here's the moral quandary I'm in.
Your dog doesn't know that you're good or what good is, and it can't. It's obvious. It's on that same level as something to test on, but it's like it still deserves to be respected and treated well.
Is it morally and ethically okay?
It's not okay. Then you get to that. So something is okay to be tested on because it is not capable of moral, understanding and reasoning, but at the same time, like I was just saying, like, oh, you gotta treat things with life, or treat life with dignity. So it's like your dog, and a bird or something you see in the road that you can run over but you don't. It's like those things are subject to morality. They may not be able to achieve morality, but they are still subject to it. Well, so it's like you still for you to be a morally right. It's like you have to treat it with dignity and respect, and not walk up and kick it for no reason or use it as a test subject.
So that was going to be my answer, was that morally and ethically, no, I would not do it. But if I'm truly looking at it from the stance of betterment for the future, then yes, absolutely do it.
I said no, but the thing that was twisted in my head was, well, what if it was like, hey man, you could eventually cure cancer. You could cure all sicknesses and diseases, and we'll just use this stuff to better humanity. Then it's like, oh, so I just screwed that up? Or I prolonged that?
But then what about that show Future Man, where the whole point, they come back from the future because this dude it's a Hulu show, this dude cured herpes, but in the process of curing herpes, he also cured all these other diseases, and then made it to a point where genetically, we didn't need to reproduce it anymore. So, everybody was perfect or whatever. But that created this world where
nobody's popping out babies. So
yeah, people aren't needed anymore, basically.
Okay.
And so, it comes down to moral and ethics.
That's like the reverse of that show on Netflix called Travelers, where they send people from the future back to prevent events from happening that will then alter history for bad. So they're coming back to fix the future. In your show, the guy's coming back. He's also fixing the future, but he's doing it a different way. He's trying to prevent something quote unquote good from happening, while these people are preventing something quote unquote bad.
I love that
from
concept
happening.
of fixing the future. It's like, yeah, I bet that's what Hitler was doing. He's like, I'm here to fix the future. Get rid of the Jews. It's like, you can't fix the future.
He was there to ensure the Third Reich would be there for 3,000 years. That's what his plan was.
That was 1,000.
Well, there was a group of ladies too within World War II that had that were considered perfect, that had sex with SS officers in order to produce this master race.
The Aryan.
There was 20,000 babies born in the span of 6 years because of that.
I wonder where their bloodlines are right now. It'd be great to
Argentina.
meet somebody that's like, yeah, that's true. Argentina, Chile, lots of South American places where they can hide.
In places that you can sail a ship onto the coast and nobody's gonna know.
That's where a lot of those guys went.
Someplace with thick jungle so I can hide and continue my research.
Someplace that doesn't like America, that will keep me here and be quiet.
Someplace where America doesn't have reach. Because why would they extend a hand to this country? That's why they chose South America.
But then you had Operation Paperclip, which brought over scientists that had experimented on all these
Those
biological
guys,
and different
the people.
experiments. But out of that also came, what was his name? Von Damme or something like that. Like the father of modern rocketry and aerospace.
I was just going to say, it's like the war ended, Russia and Russia and America and Britain and everything ran into Germany, and they're like snagging whatever they could.
This looks cool. Put it on the truck.
Exactly. Like, hey, rocket plans? Hey, we don't have that. Hey, rocket scientists? You're getting on the truck, dude. And it's like, yeah.
On the truck or on the train?
One of the guys.
On the truck or train? Which one?
Spaceship and get us into space. It's like, those Germans, if they just weren't so trying to take over the world and kind of waited a little while longer, but were just as aggressive in their technology, it's like they could.
If
they could have been the rulers, dude. They're
honestly,
so
if they wouldn't have went for Russia, that was the bottom line there.
What?
You opened the third front in Russia, and you tried to win in Russia, and nobody wins in Russia.
Well, yeah.
Nobody.
Napoleon, he learned that the hard way.
He lost brutally
He had
in
to turn
Russia.
and leave with
Nobody. The Russians don't win in Russia. Okay, everybody just gets a little better each time.
Heard a little thing that when it came to like World War I and II, they'd have the bayonets. I think it was the Russians. They wore like big, thick wool coats, so it's like they were pretty much like bayonet proof. Because they knew, they're like, hey dude, it's fucking cold here.
It's
if
very
you don't
cold.
know, you're gonna freeze to death, and then if you're gonna encounter me, you're gonna try to stab me, and it's like,
Go ahead and put on your
try.
your like steel chest plate or whatever, that cold steel bright and early and
be all
negative.
slow and cold, yeah.
Your nips would be stuck to the inside of it.
It's Russia. We make vodka from potato. I don't know why I just said that.
Yeah, well, because potatoes the only thing they got, bro.
Oh my god,
They can't
potato
make-
growing cold.
They can't make sub freezing wheat. They can't do that.
Somebody once told me that vodka was one of the most Irish drinks because it was made from potatoes. I'm like, that is culturally insensitive, sir.
That's racist.
My ancestry died for that joke, asshole.
Makes me think of the Irish potato famine that happened because, I mean, it wasn't like every potato died. It was like at the time, I think it was Britain or something was only accepting like one kind of tomato or potato, and so they were like farming this one kind of potato, but then some fungus or something popped up and wiped out that potato. So then now they have no food because they weren't growing anything, and then there was the Irish potato famine.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, of course. I'm not a historian,
Well,
but that's just what I recall hearing.
And I remember like a bigger issue about it was the fact that like nobody came to their aid. Like they were basically like, "Sir, may we please have some food?" And
More porridge, please.
and they're like, no, you cannot.
Dude, the British.
Not even if you eat meat. No, you can't have it."
First, like, global empire.
I wonder how many cannibalists came out of that.
I saw pictures and they have like
Cannibalism just pops up out of, like, necessity.
they have like
It's just
memorials
like, oh, no
over
food.
there.
We
But
eat
I've
our
seen
kids. It's
I've seen
like,
some pictures
ooh.
from the potato famine, and it was brutal. It was like one of the crazy, like, outside of the experimentation on humans in World War II, it was one of like the worst showings of like people helping people on the planet was that potato
Hey, man,
famine.
that's not, but you can't kid yourself, and that stuff's happening right now in Africa.
Well, no,
Sub-Saharan
absolutely.
Africa is just like having this stuff happen constantly, and we're always like, oh, just donate a few bucks to the kids. It's like, no, it's much more deep issue than that.
My problem.
We got these developing
problem with
nations
those-
that got nothing.
Well, my problem with those for just 37 cents a day. My problem with those is that it's like,
Oh.
if I'm paying you 37 cents,
Yeah.
that means you're retaining 25 cents and you're giving 12 cents to those
that's
kids.
not the way to fix that.
Fuck that. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. Like,
if
not
I'm
the way
giving
to fix
37
that.
cents a day, it better be given all 37 cents. Maybe minus like 5
Yeah,
cents for
when
shipping
when
and
it comes to
handling.
that, you can't. Oh, for the kid? Yeah. 5 cents, yeah. But you can't, when it comes to that stuff, it's not to throw money at it. It's like go in and you throw money to educate and then to like build farms. And
When it
give
comes
them
to something
shit.
like that, it's not a throw money at it. It's here's a plane ticket. Get out of this hellhole.
See,
Like
that's
everybody
when you
else has across the entire world. Get out of Africa.
That's when you need dog
It's hard to live
stylists
here.
to become, Christian-minded and go over there as missionaries. Because, before they were doing the missionary position, they were doing doggy styling.
Those damn missionaries. That just
No,
makes me think
that's
to
still
go
like-
from the joke to kind of serious. Like again, in not South Africa, in like Africa, there's those missionaries come over. A lot of these people become like Christian, but they're still not like educated. So they're like, oh, I'm Christian. And so, what do you do with people that have mental health issues? Well, you chain them to these trees in this forest, little patch of forest that I have, and you wait until they cure themselves.
What do you do with people with
You
mental
wait
health
until the lions
issues?
get them.
What do you do with people with mental health? Do you have a river? Shit, okay, well, we can't put them
Well,
there.
I got a forest.
Alright, sweet.
And he's like, I got a forest. They're like, cool, can we send them there? It's like, yeah, you got a chain? Well, I guess I can buy one.
This is
Chain-
Africa,
Chain
right?
him to a tree, bro.
That just reminds me,
That shit
speaking of the
happens. That stuff's
continent
real.
of Africa, there was a belief back in the day that one of the rivers, I don't know if it was the Nile or whatever, but when it succeeds and then like goes back out, because there's that little land bridge that happens. It was believed that was the gods doing that, like it was ejaculation. So
Oh, damn.
pharaohs used to go down and ejaculate into the river
Ah.
on occasion to make sure
Those
that
crazy
that
fools.
kept happening.
There was a Persian guy
Hey,
that
man,
was trying to
we're
create
gonna
a
leave
bridge.
that land bridge again. All right, hold on, let me go beat off by the water.
It's like, I gotta go. It's that time. I gotta go jerk off into the water. And those pharaohs and those kings and stuff, they're crazy. They thought they were like universal or like leaders of the universe, like the ruler of the universe. So one guy, it was like a Persian king, tried to build a bridge. River destroyed the bridge because it was too fast, and so he punished the river. He had his people go out and throw shackles into it, whip it, yell at it. It's like,
Bad-
oh yeah, that'll
bad river.
You bad water, you're bad. Here, I'm gonna imprison you. It's just you're just
Got a
throwing
fish-
shackles
He's got
in
like
the water.
a fish tank out there. Ha ha!
What are you gonna do with this? I'm gonna keep your children until you oblige. It's
You
just-
will replace the bridge you
They're
destroyed,
crazy.
or you will never see your water children again.
Well, it looks like we're at our half an hour. Went over a little bit, but it's good.
So we got
Good to
a
come back.
no, a definitely yes, and a half-hearted yes. It's a yes for the development of man. It's a no for the morality and ethics of it. So
Yes, I'll say that. Yes, for the development of man, like wholeheartedly. But when it comes to the ethical part of it, it's like I can't do it.
I
Can't
saw
do it.
I
No.
saw a quote yesterday that said, "One should always pick a side. One should always pick a side because those who are neutral always represent the oppressor. Because silence never helps the oppressed. It always helps the oppressor."
That's the you have to say A or B. You have to pick a side. It's like but things are never that simple. That's why I'm like, when I hear people say it's like, oh, but you have
Well, I
you
mean,
have the answer.
a situation like this, there's no oppressor or oppressed. It is just
That's
an
true.
idea. But
But
in
the
general,
idea of that.
But in
pick a side, I'm
general,
like, fuck that.
one should pick a side, because if you're not picking a side, then you're usually representing the worst side.
That sounds like a cop out of the people that are losing. To me, the losers are going, "Hey man, you gotta side with me so I can win, cause they're winning, and I don't like them."
I saw this like Red Scare propaganda video, and like they were trying to tie it to like modern
I like the
America, and
Red
I don't
Scare.
give a shit about the tie to modern America, but it was funny because it's like there's this guy standing on a soapbox on a corner, and he's like, "We need to get people of color out of this country. They have taken all of the white man's jobs." And there's a guy standing there in his fedora because it's like, the 20s. And he's like, yeah, this guy's making a lot of sense. Yeah. And he's like, and we need to get rid of the Teamsters. He's like, now, wait a minute. What's wrong with the Teamsters? I'm a Teamster. And then the guy sits down and he's like, you were all gung-ho to jump on when it was other people's groups. But once it became about your group, you said no.
Yep.
And he's like, oh.
Mind
They're just
blown.
trying to divide us so that they can conquer us more easily.
That just reminds me of a joke. 3 guys are walking in the desert. They find a magic lamp. 2 of them wish to go home, and the third one's like,
I wish my buddies were here.
I'm lonely. I wish my buddies were back.
Oh, God. Like, I'm home, yes! No! Well, I think we'll end it there. It's a good spot to end
That's
it.
a good one.
Thanks
Yeah.
for tuning in. And,
Thanks for coming back to the island with us.
yeah.
Adios. Have a good week.
Yeah, have a good week. Peace.
Peace.
Send any of your questions or comments to TheDigressionMethod@gmail.com. We're also on twitch.tv/TheDigressionMethod, SoundCloud.com/TheDigressionMethod, Facebook.com/DigressionMethod, Patreon.com/DigressionMethod, Twitter.com/Digression541, and you can search for us on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes, The Digression Method.
The universe itself keeps on expanding and expanding in all of the directions it can whiz. As fast as it can go, at the speed of light, 12 million miles a minute, and that's the fastest speed there is. So remember, when you're feeling very small and insecure, how amazingly unlikely is your birth. And pray that there's intelligent life somewhere out in space, 'cause there's bugger all down here on Earth.